minutes, please.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of the November 26th meeting as printed.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That is approved unanimously. Thank you. Department heads, we have our police chief, Jim Donovan. Chief.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Pleasant weather out there. This is for the month of November. The police department logged 1,465 incidents. 211 of those were reported via 911. 60 people were booked into our lockup facility. There was one non-fatal overdose. For significant events, on November 5th, detectives arrested the local president of a motorcycle gang who was a fugitive from federal probation for a violation of federal probation. There's been an uptick in violence among the motorcycle gangs, and excellent work by them to track this individual down and bring him in. On November 14th, some excellent police work. Officer Pat Leahy, patrolling our Route 138, initially stopped the motor vehicle for following too close up on the northern end of Broadway. Conducted an investigation, and with that, was able to arrest the driver of the vehicle for operating under the influence of drugs, and to seize a firearm that was fully loaded on the passenger, on the person of the passenger. This firearm right here, with the hammer cocked to the rear. That was Officer Leahy and Lieutenant Peter Beatrice that did that. The driver of the vehicle was already out on pre-trial probation, or out on bail, and had an ankle bracelet on for a previous gun arrest in the city of Boston. On the 22nd, as you know, Officer Wong graduated from the Cape Cod Academy. On the 23rd, we had a significant motor vehicle crash, rollover on Locust Street, although the injuries are rather minor, but unfortunately involved operating under the influence, texting, and some other poor driving behavior. On a positive, on the 30th, the police department and the fire department were at Walmart North doing a Stuff a Cruiser event, and they were able to get gifts for our Secret Santa program, and they filled half of a utility trailer. And on Saturday, this Saturday, they'll be at Walmart South on Paramount Drive from 11 to 2 to continue that effort. And our Secret Santa program is a coordination with the school systems, our parents groups, our school resource officer, and we identify families in town that have a need at Christmas.
Good. All set, Jim?
That's all I have.
Any questions?
Excellent report, and just thank you and your department for all their hard work keeping us all safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, did you have something for us?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
For correspondence,
Okay. Appointments, we have one. It's the reappointment of Matthew Paulkis as constable. What's the board's pleasure?
Move to reappoint.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That is approved. No other appointments. Citizen and community input? None? Okay. Public hearings, the tax classification hearing with the Board of Assessors. Chairman Lally, are you doing the there you are. Come on down.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As you said, this is the Selectmen's classification meeting, and tonight you will be voting to approve the tax rate and also make a decision on whether to shift the burden from residential and open space to the commercial, industrial, and personal properties, and whether you want to increase that, shift the burden, reduce it, or eliminate it. So that's your decision this evening. So what we've done is we provided you with these booklets here, and it's the same format as we used in previous years, so you should be familiar with it. No changes. I'd like to start off first on page 1, which is the calculation of the levy limit. To start off with, we have to build from 2019, And if you look midway through the page, section 1, you'll see that the fiscal year 2019 levy limit was $33,717,292. So from there, we start to build what the maximum allowable levy is for this year. And we start, again, that is the starting point, and then we make some adjustments to that. Last year, we had a slight adjustment for amended to our growth number, and you'll see midway through the page that we had a slight $3,600 reduction in the growth. There was some minor adjustments we had to make to the growth numbers. Then we have the 2.5% increase to the levy, last year's levy. And this is prescribed by law, and I'd like to say at this point, we still get during the year, taxpayers come in and question their levy, their tax liability. They think it should only be going up 2.5%. And we try to explain to them that the levy limit applies to the total tax levy for the town. We are by law allowed to increase from the previous year 2.5% on the entire levy. Individual homes may find their levy, their tax burden go up, could even go down, depends on the valuation of their house and what happened to it during the year. So this strict 2.5% increase only to a residential property, that does not happen. It is only to the entire town tax levy. And this year, the new growth, we picked up $606,902 in new tax revenues for the growth. We had a good year this year. We picked up about $30 million in new growth. About $25 million of that was in residential properties, new homes, additions, improvements. So again, Raynham is seeing an increase. Last year, we also had an increase. So it's been in a steady upward trend on an annual basis. So the summation of those, and we come to $35,163,339. That there becomes our levy limit. And to that, we can add our debt exclusion, which as you get a little bit further down the page, you'll see that this year it was $2,947,000. The sum of those two gives us our maximum allowable levy, and that is $38,110,659. Just want to point out that this year we will not be raising to that level. We'll be doing lower than that. We consistently raise less than we are allowed, the maximum levy limit. This year, the estimated levy is $37,385,103. So we will be raising less than we are allowed. And again, this is something Raynham has been doing consistently year over year, is that we have not raised up to the maximum that we're allowed. That, I guess you could say fiscal responsibility, whatever, has kept that number from climbing to the maximum allowable levy. Going on to page 2 and 3, again, it's a recap of basically what we were just talking about. On page 3, again, we're looking at the levy for last year and the amended growth, the new growth, and what the levy limit is, and that's $38,110,000. The entire town valuation of Raynham is now at $2,378,462,000. That's 5,749 accounts. If we were to go with a flat tax rate, considering our what we plan on raising for the estimated levy and the total valuation of $2.4 billion, we would be looking at a flat tax of $15.72. We put in here a number, we showed a shift of 126%. This is what we had last year, so for comparison purposes, we threw it in this year so that you could see what that would be. If we continue with the 126% shift from the residential open space to the commercial, industrial, personal property accounts, we would have a residential rate of $14.41 and a commercial and industrial personal property rate of $19.80. The debt exclusion this year, as I said, is $2,947,000, and that has an effect on the tax rate this year of $1.24. Some points of interest: the town's average assessed single-family home now is $401,000, well, $401,600, and that's up from the previous year of $391,600. The average tax bill for that single-family home will go to $6,313. Later on in some of the exhibits in the back, you'll see where Raynham is in relation to other towns regarding the tax rate. The actual tax bill with a 126% shift, if we stay consistent with the previous year, would be $5,787. So again, if we stay with a flat rate, or if we go or drop to a flat rate, we're at $6,313 for the average single-family resident. And if we go with 126%, as we have in the past, we're looking at a residential tax bill for the average home of $5,787. Let you take a look at that and just digest that if you want. The following page, page 4, is just the classification of the town's various property classes. This is one of the first steps, and this is prescribed by law. We have to classify properties between residential, open space, commercial, industrial, and personal property. And this page just shows you what we do submit to the state and what those classification amounts are. And that is on page 4. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. And if I'm blowing through this, you want me, let me know. On page 5, we have, again, the residential, the different property classes. And this gives you the percentages, and this goes into the minimum residential factor and also the residential factor that gets applied to the tax rate. And as you'll see, that residential and open space represents 75.7% of the town's valuation. And that the commercial, industrial, personal property, we're looking at 24.3% of the full and fair cash value of the entire town's valuations. The next several pages are really the classification by the North Raynham and the Center Water Districts. Some of the commissioners are here this evening. They will be setting their tax rate. So this is almost a combination type of meeting. They'll be approving their tax rates, and we'll later, after this meeting, be approving that and putting that through the gateway system and reporting it to the DOR this evening. So we've got some work to do after this meeting. I just want to let you know, as we were talking about North Raynham and Center, this year the North Raynham Water District property tax is $1.70 per thousand, and the Center is .71 cents. Again, page 6, 7, 8, again, it's just the classification by the two water districts. We can talk about it if you'd like, but it's just really a subset of the entire town's classification page on page 6. If you turn to page 9, this pretty much gives you the growth rates, the growth with tax rates. And this is just a history of the tax rates, the shift, and it goes back to 1990. So as you can see at the bottom of the page, which is highlighted for 2020, again, using the same 126% shift that we did previous year, we're looking at tax rates for residential of $14.41 and for commercial $19.80. Gives you the differential between the two rates of $5.39. We're looking at, again, new growth, and the percent of what the new growth represented. 60% of that was residential, the other 40 was due to commercial. Again, reiterating the average single family is $401,600, and the average tax bill $5,787, and the change from the previous year, we're looking at 3.9% in increase in the average tax bill. And again, this page here just gives you a history of how that has gone, going all the way back to 1990. The next page, page 10, is the debt exclusion itself and what makes up the debt exclusion. Put that page in here so you can see what makes up the $2,947,000 debt exclusion. I can't talk much about this page. You'd probably need the treasurer to probably give you any more information than you see here. But we provide it so that you know what makes up that number. Just further detail. On page 11, we have a history of the debt exclusion itself, a little follow-up to the previous page. And it shows you what the total valuation of, well, by year, going all the way back to 1990. It gives you the total valuation of the town. In this case here, this year, 2020, we're looking at $2,378,000. The levy, and that's $37 million. What the debt exclusion is, $2.9 million, and then again, the tax rates. And the effect on the taxes, this is where you see what the $1.24 on the average single-family resident. The debt exclusion for 2020 is $497.98. That is the impact of the $2,947,000 on the average single-family dwelling. Page 12 is just a history of the residential factor. Again, this is again, looking at, you can see starting in 2000, the shift was 109%, and that has been steadily growing ever since 2008, which it's remained at the 126% shift. So we've maintained that shift now for some time. And then the next page, page 13, is basically if you decide to do some what-ifs. If you want to change the shift, well, page 12 is the beginning of it. On page actually 14, the next page, shows you what that 126% shift does to the different classifications and what the effect will be. But if you decide to do some other scenario, like increase it to 130% or even reduce it, we can go through this chart and you can make a decision yourselves on that. So, and that again, like I say, if you decide and you would like to further investigate what some other percentage would be, we can, go through that chart and make any changes you want. One of the last pages is page 16, and that is a comparison of the tax rates. We don't have all of the 2020 tax rates for all the towns, but if you look, you'll see where Raynham is. And again, this is with a 126% shift. Again, we keep putting that in there only because we're being consistent with previous years. But we're, without doing anything, we're pretty much in the middle of the pack here, I would say. You look, we see some towns, like Halifax. Halifax, we're looking at a flat rate. It's at $17.44, so it's somewhat in between our two rates. I think East Bridgewater, $17.29 flat rate. And, well, we don't have Taunton for 2020, but in 2019, they have a split rate. And it's, the residential is $15.76, and the commercial $34.24. That's sizable, and that was for 2019. So I don't know where it is in 2020. They haven't said it. At this point, it had not been set. But and I think the last page is just the top 5 taxpayers for the town. And that stayed pretty consistent since the last several years. So with that, any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Chairman Lally? Mrs. Smith?
Great job as always. I mean, really, you make it so that we can actually understand it. Very good.
Not an easy
Thank you.
Yeah,
That is Jessica and Amy. They do a great job.
Jessica, and
Yes.
great job. That's quite a big difference in Taunton, isn't it? with that
So
tax?
last year it was, although they're at the maximum, 175.
Yeah, it
one,
can't go any more than that,
shift.
can
You
it?
can't, no. And I'm not sure, again, I don't think they can maintain that for any
No. Well,
number of
look at
years.
Dayton. Dayton's 165. I don't have any questions
Okay.
on the work itself. Great job. Thank you so much, sir.
Ms. Riley, any questions or comments?
Just I would also say thank you, a lot of work to our Board of Assessors and our department for all this work, and as Marie said, for making it so we can understand it.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Explain it to
So
me.
you don't just sit there every Tuesday night, huh? I'm always teasing them about they just sit in
Yeah.
there and do nothing every week.
I try to look like I'm awake.
Yeah, you look like it. Well, now I know you're doing something.
Likewise, Mike, we appreciate you, Assessor Oldfield, for joining us this evening, Jess and Amy for the work that they do on a daily basis and in preparation for this hearing every year. If I would for a minute, I would just highlight a couple of the comments that you said, because there continues to be some in our community, unfortunately, who spread the unfortunately false propaganda that we are a liberal spending community, and that is just not the case. You highlighted the fact that, again, this year, we're not going to the levy limit. Had we gone to the levy limit proposed this year or in past years, the tax rate would increase. We have not done that. We continue to not do that, despite some guidance in the finance community that says we should go to the levy every year. Most communities do go to the levy every year. So I want to make sure that those in the audience this evening and those at home understand that, again, we are not proposing to go to the levy limit, which is allowable under the law. And that's one thing I want to add. Another thing that I've advocated for a number of years is us paying down our debt. We continue to do that. That continues to have a positive influence on the tax impact for our community, both residential and community. And I think it's important to accentuate that again. The third piece, the average tax bill for the single-family home is going up approximately $10,000 in terms of valuation. As you highlighted, Mr. Chairman, that does have an adverse impact on the tax bills. And I think people need to understand that as well, that as the value of their home increases, so too does the tax bill. And it's not a increase by the town, it's an increase by the market. And I think that's important to highlight. The final piece that I have, and I always talk about this, is, but I continue to believe that our 1-2-6 shift is extremely competitive. As you alluded to in this report, there's a number of communities, contiguous communities, that have a higher split rate than we do, as well as our sister community, the city of Taunton, which for at least my 13 years has maxed out at 175, which is significantly higher, and it still results in a higher residential rate than the town of Raynham has. And so I think in sum, when you put all of that together, I continue to say that we are an extremely well-run town, a fiscally conservative town, and to those who continue to spread the propaganda that we otherwise are not, well, shame on you.
I
So,
agree with you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I agree.
thank you.
Eloquently said.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. I get really frustrated when people spread blatant lies in the
Well,
community.
it is true. Everybody thinks that we just spend. We really don't spend a lot of money. We spend it very conservatively.
Yes.
And we always have. That's
Any-
why we are where we are.
Correct. Where it is a hearing, any questions from the audience, input? Seeing none, what's the board's pleasure?
I would maintain that we just stay with the 126. It has been, I think, a conservative number on our part. It doesn't raise taxes on either end hugely, and I think everybody can live with that.
Is that a motion?
Yes, it is.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please extend our thanks to your staff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. No other public hearings this evening. New business, TMLP and Verizon New England request. We need to set a date for that hearing. These typically are not controversial. If the board is amenable to that, I would recommend we put it on the schedule for next Tuesday, December 10th.
Sounds good.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is set.
Aye.
Thank you. Any new business, Mrs. Smith?
No,
Miss Riley?
No, thank you.
All righty. Old business, Mrs. Smith?
no.
Miss Riley?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Town administrators report, Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not much on this town administrator's report because of the holidays, but the Public Safety Building Committee, the project manager RFP submittal deadline is tomorrow at 3 p.m. Representatives of the building committee will be meeting Thursday to review the submissions. A selection will be made by Friday and brought to the board on Tuesday, December 10th, or the following meeting thereafter. The town Christmas tree lighting is Saturday, December 7th at 4 p.m. Boarding Colony Gazebo is where it's taking place on Kings Phillips Road. I hope to be there. I plan to be there, so I hope to see everybody else there as well. And of course, the next Selectmen's regularly scheduled meeting is Tuesday, December 10th at 7 p.m. in the Don McKinnon Meeting Room of Town Hall, right here.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Waters. Any questions for the administrator?
No.
None. All right. Thank you. Selectmen's report, Mrs. Smith.
I have nothing except that I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know that I did, and my family, we enjoyed it immensely. Ate too much turkey, but other than that, it was very, very nice.
Good. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Miss Riley, anything?
Just that before you go to the Christmas tree lighting on Saturday, hope everybody stops by our Rave Holiday Craft Fair. It's the primary fundraiser for the Rave programs in the Raynham schools. It's from 8:30 to 2:30 at the La Liberty Elementary School. 40 crafters inside, a working kitchen, and outside Boy Scouts will be selling wreaths. And I also understand, you've heard the song Santa Claus is Coming to Town. He's actually coming on Saturday and Sunday. He's going to be escorted by the Raynham Fire Department and Police Department, traveling in and out all of our roadways in town. And he's going to make a surprise visit at our craft fair as well. And I understand he possibly there'll be Santa at the tree lighting as well. So a wonderful weekend in Raynham. Hopefully everybody enjoys.
Thank you. I would just extend my appreciation to Ed Buckley and the Highway Department. And we had our first substantial snowfall, and again, it's my opinion they did a phenomenal job. One of my employees who lives in a sister community commented to me today how difficult it was for him to get off his side streets onto the highway to get here, and then drove through Raynham and said it was better than 24. So again, credit to Ed and his team because they continue to do us proud. Correspondence is light. We have a request for a tag day for Norton Youth Football and Cheer. What's the board's pleasure?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is
Aye.
approved. And then we have a request for a sewer connection, Alan Jacobs, 180 Ann Street. To whom it may concern, I, Alan Jacobs, would like to hook up to the sewer as soon as possible because someone is helping me pay to have this done, Alan Jacobs. The board, I'm sure, is aware of this because it was in our packets, and the uniqueness of this request is due to the fact that the petitioner, because normally these requests would not come to us, is in tax arrears for over $82,000. Matt, I'm assuming that's why you're here, and then our treasurer just walked in. Is Mr. Jacobs here? Did you want to present to the board? If you do, I would ask you to go up here, state your name and address for the record.
Why I brought it in weeks ago, and it was from Mr. Goldwyn, who was going to pay for it, because due to my health, I'm just rehabbing cancer. I had radiation, 34 shots of it, so. And with the leukemia, I wasn't doing too good, and things were just catching up. The doctor said to me, what would you like to do, Al? Pull the plug. I looked at him, Dr. Payne over in Bay Road. And then I said, no, not really. I'd like to try to come back in life, So anyway, the fella opened up a little store while this happened. I got hit with this cancer in Taunton for me, and I still haven't got to it because I'm still not strong enough. But he wanted to take away just from paying for pumping my house every month. It's just becoming, like a hard situation in my life, you know what I mean? And he gave checks. They brought in Stanton, was going to do the job. I guess you know who he is in Raynham. Oh, what's the name of the street? He's on whatever. He brought in checks for licenses and connections and whatever. And the fellow said that the checks had been cashed for the sewer. And I don't even know if I can even hook up. The ground's too hard. And what can I say? I'm just in a bad situation. And if you need anything you want me to do to, bring this to any clearer, I'll be more than glad to do whatever you.
Mike, did you want to comment? I think we have a pretty good understanding of what's going on, but sure.
So in Mr. Jacobs' case, he came to the tax collector's office for a sewer connection permit sign-off. There's a tax delinquency, which we've already established, so that sign-off was not granted. Town bylaw 218, bylaw relating to the non-payment of taxes, passed at the special town meeting of November 14th, 2016, states that licenses or permits shall be denied in the case that the applicant or property owner has neglected to pay any local taxes, fees, assessments, betterments, or other municipal charges. So that would be applicable in this case. The one thing I would add is that Mr. Jacobs does have the ability to avail himself of a hearing before the licensing authority which in this case would be the Sewer Commission. So I'm wondering if the board would agree that that might be the proper venue for this.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think when that bylaw was passed, I was one of the people who advocated for it because we didn't have consistency in terms of permit sign-offs when we had delinquency matters, but we wouldn't be issuing the permit on this. So yeah, I would agree with the collector's assessment if the board's amenable to that.
Definitely pass it on to the sewer department for their, I'm sorry,
To the sewer
yeah,
commission.
to the sewer commissioner for their perusal and make the determination.
Yeah, okay, is that a
Yes.
motion?
Yes, it is.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So it will be referred to the sewer commission because we believe that's the appropriate venue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Yeah.
Tennis wanted
Yeah.
to say something?
One, yeah, you don't mind.
Well, I want to wish everyone a nice holiday and
Thank
stuff.
you.
Thank you.
I've been here a long time, here 35, 40 years of my
How
life.
long have you lived there, Mr. Jacobs?
When I told you
35,
about your
40.
show,
35 years?
you know?
Go ahead, Matt.
As part of this whole issue here, yeah, no, that's fine. We can't issue an abandonment permit, which coincides with the sewer as well because of the tax lien. So, and that's issued through Board of Health. So I don't know if that wound up falling under you, if the sewer department were to
We
go ahead
can,
with
I
it.
would say we'll make an assessment on that depending on
After the
the
sewer
action of the
department
sewer
makes.
commission.
Okay,
All right?
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No other correspondence this evening. We have no members of the press with us. Any emergency business?
None?
I have none.
Okay, it's the board's pleasure.
Go ahead.
Motion to adjourn, sign the bills and warrants with no other business to be conducted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.